Ask friend if he knows anyone who has access to some tools I need to finish a project. Says sure, he knows a guy from work that would be happy to help. Apparently he was interested in the same kind of art, but warns me he's a bit off. Drive friend to work one day. He introduces me. Guy seems really distant and withdrawn. Shakes my hand and we chat a bit. He seems real interested in the woodwork I was doing, and we talked about sculptures and such for a little while. Things we'd learned, tools we used, etc. Guy warms up a bit, and I ask him if it would be alright if I checked out some of his stuff. He hesitantly agrees, kind of like when you're trying to come up with an excuse but you just can't. He tells me to swing by that night. We can chat over a few beers. Okay, sure. Later that night I get a call. It's the guy. He sounds a little shaken up, saying things chaotic at home, and right now isn't a good time. Says he'll call me sometime. Whatever, sure man. 2 weeks go by. Guy calls one afternoon, says things have settled down and he wants me to bring over some of my works as well, to compare and blah blah blah. Sure dude, so I start to head over, and notice this guy lives in the middle of fucking nowhere. I had to call him just to find his house. It's at the end of a long driveway, beautiful acres of land. The driveway is littered with trees and his house is actually pretty nice. As I come up the driveway, something strikes me odd about the trees I'm passing up. They all have faces carved into them facing the driveway. Twisted, pained faces. I didn't think much of it. I make morbid stuff myself, and in fact I was very impressed. The amount of detail was staggering. Looking out onto the tree line of the property, every tree had pained faces looking in on the house, almost like the woods were watching you wherever you went. This actually kind of creeped me out. Looking out was like seeing 100 or so white faces just crying out, kind of like they wanted your attention. Knock on the door. Guy answers with a beer in hand and a much friendlier demeanor than before. Helps me carry some of my stuff in and he shows me around. Guy seems pretty cool. Begin to notice each room has one of those same damned faces hanging above the door frame. The more I saw them, the more I felt sick. Up close the faces were more detailed than I had imagined, almost surrealistic. I asked him what his focus on the faces were for, and the guy kind of tensed up and dodged my question. Upon entering his workshop, which was fucking sweet by the way, he seemed to have other interests besides creepy faces. Entire 7-foot sculptures of women, men, animals, etc. All very well done. And one with a tarp in the back just chilling there. He says it isn't done yet, so I don't bother. It was right in front of a door that I think led to another room. We begin working on stuff together, trading stories and times we had accidentally injured ourselves. Suddenly subjects change. Guy asks me what I think about God. Tell him I'm not very religious, but I don't rule anything out. Guy starts getting a bit loud, saying that God is a blatant lie. He was told so. By who? He kinda silenced for a moment, and then abruptly asked me if I believed in spirits. Gave him kind of the same answer. It's possible. He starts looking around the room as if seeing if anyone is around, and then his voice goes soft, and he kind of whispers for a moment. I see things in the woods. At dusk I can see their shadows. Sometimes they whisper from the trees and I can hear them. Fucking nope. Obviously Guy is mentally disturbed. Egg him on, ask what they tell him, etc. They tell him that God is a lie. Only thing after death is darkness. He says they laugh at him and leave dead animals at his tree line. Officially creeped out at this point. He said for a while they visited him at night, and each face carving represented a different spirit that had visited him. Says they can't stand looking at themselves in death, so they don't step within the tree line, thus why he had the entire thing carved out. I'm pretty silent at this point. I hadn't had goosebumps so bad since I was a kid, and chills just running up my spine. He told me they talked to him from the tree line at night, and try to get him to leave his home. I eagerly try to change the subject. Guy looks down and just keeps talking. He's pale as a sheet, and was obviously genuinely terrified. He even kind of looks like he's welling up. Tells me I'm the only person he's told. Knowing I'm a stranger, he apologizes. Says he's scared and doesn't know what to do anymore. I try my best to awkwardly console this stranger, and the guy actually kind of starts to break down. I think he needs help, but it's not my place to give it to him. Regrettingly ask him why he's afraid. Says the faces don't work anymore, and 2 weeks ago he had something terrible in his living room. Huh? He walks over to the tarped sculpture and pulls the tarp off, to reveal the most mangled, terrible thing I had ever seen. It hardly resembled a human being. It was terrifying to have imagined this guy seeing it standing in his living room. Shortly after a loud bang on the wall to my right, I nearly jumped out of my skin. This guy didn't even flinch. Then again, bang. Then it just continued on, continuously like hail hitting a tin roof. Guy screams, "Stop it," and it ceases. After that, I grabbed my shit, tell the guy I'm sorry, and got out of there as quickly as possible. As I'm leaving his home and driveway, I look into the rearview mirror. The tree line is darker than I've ever seen. Guy calls a week later and apologizes. Says he was silly and everything is okay now. Friend says Guy quit, never hear from him again. He's come up to my room almost every night for years. He's about 6 feet tall, if I had to guess. He's very old, at least 70. He's always heavily dressed in thick layers of clothing, making it difficult to guess his weight or body type. To be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure he's a male. That's just a placeholder pronoun, I suppose. He's never gotten into my room, I'm sure of that. He's tried. Mostly just stands outside my room on the deck, pressed up against the glass window of the double doors. He can get up on the deck directly from an outside staircase. I tried removing the steps last month. He didn't come up that night. The next morning, the mangled, flattened body of my 16-year-old cat had been shoved through the mail slot of the main entrance on the ground floor. I spent that day repairing the deck staircase. I used to not have curtains over the glass double doors. The first night he came, he was in full view. The lower half of his face was pressed against the glass. A thick hood covered his eyes. His mouth opened and he started to lick the glass in a small circle, while his wrinkled hands rubbed against the door, creating a horrible squeaking sound. Immediately I screamed. As I fumbled for my phone to call the police, he slammed a fist on the door, turned around and jumped over the deck railing. When the police arrived, I gave them my description and told them where he went. This all happened around 1 a.m., as it has ever since. Now, my deck is about 3 stories off the ground, down sheer cliff overlooking a field. While most people would probably survive the fall, they wouldn't do so without seriously fucking up something. You'd think an elderly man would break his legs, rendering him stationary. At the base of the deck, the police found 2 deep boot imprints, presumably where he fell. Leading off from the prints was a clear trail where he had gone through the tall grass. Shallow, alternating left-right prints led through the trail with a long stride. He hit the ground and sprinted, possibly uninjured. The police followed the trail into the woods at the edge of my property. About 50 feet in, there was a small makeshift camp. It had a brown pup tent, a small fire pit, and a pile of dead rodents. One rodent was skewered over the pit. I told the police I did not want this camp on my property, and it was taken down. Almost every night since, around 1 a.m., he's there. If I call the police, he runs. I brought a shotgun, prepared to defend myself. I sat up waiting. I've done this a few times, and when I do, he doesn't come. Not until I doze off. Then I wake to the squeaking sound of his skin against glass. He makes sure I know he's still there, then he runs. If I do anything to prevent him getting up, something of mine breaks the next morning. In the case of my removal of the stairs, he killed my cat. Otherwise, he's always outside, standing on the deck, pressed against the glass. I bought some curtains and hung them over the doors. I never go out there anymore, and I never pull the curtains back. I only know he's still there because of the horrible squeaking sound. I tried to move out, tried to sell the house and leave. The morning after I posted the listing, a small note scrawled on birch bark was tossed in my mail slot. On it, the personal details of every member of my immediate family were listed. I pulled the house listing immediately. If I'm ever gone for more than a few days, I come back to broken windows, destroyed house plants, and dug-up yard. After a week-long vacation once, I came home to find all my goldfish fried in a pan on my stove. The police have tried to get me to move away. I don't think I can tell them about the note. I'm almost positive something bad will happen if I do. Ever since the stairs incident, he's gotten bolder. He's been in the house while I'm here, and I think he's always around, not just in the middle of the night anymore. I've caught glimpses of him. I've always immediately run to my bedroom. I've heard him fiddle with the lock. I swear I've heard both doors to this room rattle simultaneously. He wants to get in here. For now, I think I'm safe. I have my shotgun in case he tries to attack. While I know he's gotten into the house, I'm sure he'll never get into my room. I've walled myself in, you see. Last time I left this house was when I fixed the outside stairs. I've since walled off the door to my bedroom, and the only way out is through the glass doors on the deck. I'll have to leave eventually, and I know he'll be waiting. If he isn't, then I can only pray for my family. Be 16-year-old. Visit grandparents in a very rural area frequently. Go for night walks in a woods. Take cousin with me one night. Moon is really bright. Leave flashlight at home for more spooks. Decide to try a new trail we've never walked before. Get lost, of course. Roam around for hours trying to go the direction we came from. Fail miserably. Deep forest, way darker than the part we came from. Smells like something died nearby. Smell comes from the very direction we're heading. Decide to still go there because we're convinced it's the general direction of our village. Come to a small, overgrown field with an old, clearly abandoned house. These are pretty common in the area. Stop and try to get signal or check maps. No luck. Give up on saving battery and turn on phone flashlight. Go towards the cabin, hoping to find a landline phone. Obviously, it would be disconnected, but we were desperate. Dead animal smells very clearly coming from the house. There are some faint, wettish sounds coming from the house. Would never hear it if not for the fact that the forest was completely quiet. Stop in the doorway whispering to my cousin that we should probably leave. Don't be a coward, Annan. Fuck it, I'm going. .jpg. First room is totally ruined. Someone must have searched it for valuables. Smell is pretty much unbearable, so go around the room as quickly as possible. No phone, of course. Go to the other room. Cousin right behind me. I shine the shitty phone flashlight into the room. It takes us a good few seconds to register what we're seeing. There's a badly decomposed carcass on the ground. Can't really tell what animal it is. 3 deer are standing over it. They lift their heads up in unison. Their mouths are covered with brown, decomposing blood. There's some kind of tissue hanging from one's mouth. One of these fuckers turns towards us and stands on its hind legs perfectly upright. Fight or flight kicks in. I book it out of the cabin after cousin. Turn around. One of the deer is standing, yes, standing on 2 legs on the porch with tissue of whatever poor critter it was eating still hanging out of its mouth. Cry and shit my pants a little. We run in a completely random direction, tripping over fallen trees and getting slapped in the face by bushes. Cousin runs face first into a huge spider web. He's terrified of spiders. Stops and starts yelling he can feel it under his shirt. I tell him to shut the fuck up. He does, sobbing slightly. We hear a faint sound of twigs breaking behind us. I shine phone flashlight into the brush. 3 pairs of eyes reflecting light in the distance. Run, Cousin Annan, run. We keep getting fucked by the bushes. Whatever spider was under his shirt has surely fallen out or died from all the twig slaps we endured, but he keeps sobbing. After what felt like a marathon, we run out onto a dirt road. Follow it until we see houses. See street sign pointed to our village. We're saved, Annan. Walk back to the village in complete silence. By the time we arrive, the sun is up. Cousin only speaks up as we step on the porch. Annan, did you see what those deer were eating? A decomposed animal, why? There were scraps of clothing on the body. My face went, deer ate a dead guy. 2007/2008. Forget the exact time, but late 2007, early 2008. Friends go exploring way in bumfuck nowhere around eastern Oregon. Get lost in woods for hours. GPS isn't working right after about the first 2 hours of hiking. Getting dark. Hearing animals in the woods, coyotes and other larger game. Pull out SIG 9mm. Walk out into a clearing hoping it's the road. No road, just a large clearing with a small, slightly beat-up ranch house and a light on in the front room. Run up to the door, start knocking. One friend points out this could be a couple of old rednecks with a moonshine operation running. Holster gun and pull jacket over it. Keep knocking. Nothing. Door is slightly ajar. Push it open slowly. Call out, "Hello? Anyone home? We've been lost in the woods all day and we're wondering if you could point us to the road." Hear nothing. "Hello? We're coming in." Push door open. 3 of us are in your doorway. Anyone here? We walk in. The air just feels thin and creepy. I pull out my gun and start clearing the room with the light on. Really nothing in the room. A little stool and lamp sitting on it. It's an oil-burning lamp. An old rotten couch. Go back into hallway and enter next room. Hear friend just scream bloody murder. Run back into hallway and into the room he's now standing with a gun drawn and ready to go. See a very dry, very old corpse hanging in the center of the room. It's nearly completely bone at this point. No clothes, and can't tell if it's a man or woman. Put gun away, looking around room. See a pantry that's just slightly open and hear a light noise like breathing. Pull gun, round chambered. Motion to friend to open the pantry. He slowly walks up and flings the door open. A man's body covered in flies and bugs, shotgun in hand, his head just covering the wall, not nearly as decomposed. Nope the fuck out and run away as fast as we can. Look back, see figure in front of the light before it goes dead. Nope.png.avi.jpeg.gif. Whip out GPS and check where we are. Shit's all kinda fucked. Screen keeps flashing on and off where we are, but the lat and long are both 00. Shit, fuck, shit. We're ripping through the woods. Stop and catch breath. Look at GPS again. See our location, but it is still blinking back to another one marked 00. We start walking back to our car we had saved in the GPS. All the while it's blinking back to our previous location. Still have the heebie-jeebies. Finally back to car. GPS is still flipping shit. Get in car. Friend's holding GPS and says it's blinking to around the car, but like 16 feet off. See light in the woods suddenly. Light flies towards us. Oil lamp smashes on front of car. Nope, nope, nope. Rip that shit into reverse and drive like a bat out of hell out of there. GPS still blinking to behind us. After we get about 30 miles away, the GPS goes back to normal. Never told anyone about it. Never talked about it again.